Hi, I'm Darren, and thanks for joining us today. And we are going to be talking about, and I don't know why I'm saying we, because it's only me. So welcome. Our project today is overspray removal. Now, overspray represents some very unique challenges. First one is that very likely you will not know what the overspray actually is. And when I say overspray, it generally leads to the conclusion that we mean paint of some type. In this case, on this, what is this car? Dodge SRT. The guy actually ran through something on the road and it kicked up on the side of the car, kicked up on the back end. So the first challenge is that you, as a rule, will not know what the overspray is. If you don't know what it is, it's hard to know how to attack it out of the box. Is it latex paint? Is it road paint in this case? So overspray, also as a rule, is very unlikely that you as the car owner will know where that overspray came from. Because as what happens is it is present almost everywhere. From people painting buildings, maybe your car sits at work, maybe it's at home. Point is you just never really ever know where it came from exactly and what the overspray is you're trying to remove. The second biggest problem is that overspray goes everywhere. So, speaking from experience, I know that as a rule, when a customer calls me and asks about overspray removal, they likely have undersimplified the moment, or I should say, oversimplified it. And what I mean by this is that they look at a certain part of their car and they quickly come to this conclusion like, oh my gosh, I've got something on my car, little tiny specks, and I think it's overspray. What they don't realize is that not only is your car made up of many, many types of materials, paint, chrome, glass, plastic, black trim, painted body panels, tail lights in this case. So there's many types of materials, many types of surfaces. The surfaces itself will vary dramatically sometimes, from very smooth clear-coated paint to a textured black plastic vinyl or plastic to a smooth molded black spoiler in this case. So there's endless materials that you have to deal with. So that's a tricky combination of A, you don't know exactly the makeup, the chemical makeup of the overspray itself and what chemicals or what manual process is going to remove it, and B, all the endless materials that overspray will have settled on and then now has become a permanent or a semi-permanent fixture of that piece. That represents a huge problem-solving challenge. Now, I'm the yes guy. Why? Because I love a challenge. I rolled into this not knowing if I was going to be able to fix it. Now, I've got in my arsenal, called my mobile detailing unit over there, all types of chemicals. And that's where I've talked about having that one tool, that one chemical can suddenly literally make or break your world. So if it works, it's going to make your world. But if you're not carrying it around with you, well, you don't even have the option of using it or trying it. So there's some basic strategies that I always go through in dealing with overspray. One of the obvious ones, let's say you're a detailer, is the clay bar. Now the clay bar, now this is my clay bar. This is a Clay Magic clay bar. They're like one of the original manufacturers of this, and it is just the medium grit. It is very dirty, but that's a whole nother video, because trust me, these things last for years, and just because they get a little dirty doesn't mean you have to buy a new one, despite what the manufacturer would like you to think. So that is the basic premise, is that you start with this, but this works on smooth surfaces as a rule. You can use it on some textured surfaces, but the more textured it is, the more difficult it becomes to use, because in order to use this, this is what's called the manual approach, meaning you manually have to remove it by abrading it, or, I mean, really, we could call it kind of sanding it down. Now, don't go into freak out mode. That doesn't mean you're sanding the paint. It just means that this wears down those little droplets of overspray on that surface. But when it comes to these intricate areas, it becomes very problematic in trying to get this into those areas. So that's where a chemical would come in. But you got to make sure the chemical doesn't damage the surfaces. So there's an endless list of problems. But what I did is I already experimented with this. I found a chemical that works. And if I did not have that with me, guess what? I'd be rolling away from here empty-handed, which is never a good scenario for both sides, for both my customer and myself, because I really want the same thing my customer wants, which is success, results, because that's what I'm paid for, is to deliver results. And I have figured out how to deliver the results in this case because I did some experimentation. So let me show you, and I'll bring you in for a closer look. Once again, my rapid remover hits it out of the park. This is the winning formulation for this moment. But let me emphasize this moment. Now this, for whatever reason, and once again, I do not know what this Overspray is. Did I know it was road paint? And by road paint, I mean the stripe, or the paint they use to stripe the streets with, whether it's yellow or white. That is like industrial paint on steroids. That is the worst of the worst in my experience. I'm pretty certain this is not road paint. I think it's latex paint. Now, in understanding basic chemistry, this rapid remover officially is an adhesive remover. So it will start to break down glues, adhesives, certain types of, I'm not even sure how to label it. For example, this will break down that spray paint, what do they call it? You know, when you want to make it black and finish, Plastidip. Wow, come on, Darren. So Plastidip, which has become very popular, at least here in California, guys want to change the color of their wheels, they want to paint a hood, whatever. It's kind of almost a rubberized type of semi-permanent paint that can be peeled off and removed after the fact. Well, this will dissolve that. So this spoiler, for example, represented a challenge because I did not know if this spoiler was painted black and it's a matte finish or a satin finish, which means it's not high gloss. So I didn't know if it was painted or not. I had to verify that this would not start to break down that paint if it was. Well, I could determine pretty quickly that this was in fact a completely molded black spoiler, as in a single piece that's molded, or the plastic itself is black. It actually has color to it. It's not just on the surface. So that's the good news. But I have this plastic trim here that encases the taillights. And then I've got the plastic taillights themselves. So this is safe for a lot of materials, but you have to verify each and every time. So the good news is that this will dissolve and start to break down this paint or this overspray if I allow enough dwell time. Dwell time essentially means for the chemical, whatever this is, and this is actually kind of a natural type of chemical, kind of like an orange, citrusy type of, I don't know exactly what, but the smell would suggest that. Anyhow, so the dwell time, it allows those chemicals to react to each other. In this case, a positive way, and by positive I means that it's going to dissolve the overspray and allow me to wipe it off and to remove it. So that's the positive way in this moment. So that's what dwell time is that you need the chemical to do its job, break down or do what you want it to do. And that could be something like even just a simple grease remover is what's called dwell time. But you can expedite that along, speed it along by rubbing it. But that's where you have to be careful that in rubbing, because guys, and this is so relevant with every part of detailing. Honestly, let's just simplify it. Half of the equation is what's called patience. Okay, patience as a rule is being systematically engineered out of society. Everything is on instant gratification overload. We have no ability for what I call delayed gratification. Now listen to that again, delayed gratification. If you think about it, we've got fast food everything, drive-through everything, instant everything, on demand everything. If you have to wait a split second for what you want, you've already lost patience and you've already moved on, because that is what society is producing. So when it comes to detailing, because it is all about the details, you have to develop patience. So there's that winning balance of too much versus not enough. So in fact, I just fixed this guy's car because he removed the emblem off of his car. And most of you know I do a lot of debadging. So I have to allow this a certain amount of time, dwell time, to do its job. But guys, they get over anxious, impatient, and they want to rush it along. So they spray something on there and they just start aggressively rubbing because they want to cut to the chase. And I know time is money, so we all want to cut to the chase, but there's a point where you're cutting to the chase in a good way versus a negative way, which you're actually going to do damage that you're either going to have to fix or you're going to have to suffer the consequences of, because you now have a unhappy customer. We don't want unhappy customers. So case by case, I just know that this is a very effective product for so many things, whether it's on the interior, exterior. And now, once again, it has risen to the level of performance, and it's going to allow me to produce the results that I want to get in this moment, which is a topic for a whole nother video, which has to do with time is money and results. Because ultimately, when it comes down to it, I get paid to deliver the results. That's where you have to figure out if you're a detailer. And if you're a Johnny do-it-yourselfer, rapid remover, I highly recommend it for so many reasons. There will be links under this video. Just click on the little tab that says show more. I don't know why YouTube somehow can't just say description or whatever. It just says show more. Click on that. It will suddenly open up and you'll see all the links to my website. You can help support my efforts by shopping through the links that will open up into Amazon. So thank you in advance. I appreciate it. But you just never know what's going to work. It could have been lacquer thinner. It could have been acetone. Could have been just the clay bar. It literally is you being an investigator and a strategist and figuring out what it is that's going to work to deliver the end result that you're trying to obtain. In this moment, it's rapid remover. So I will show you. Uncertain as to whether it's going to pick up or not, but hopefully you can see little white specks. Let me wipe this, and I can actually see some scratching. This guy's a do-it-yourselfer. He takes care of his own car. See these little white specks? That's what I have to get off everywhere. Black trim, paint, the spoiler. So if we go down here around the SRT, I clean this up. There's still some tiny spots here that I have to clean up, but I wanted to just experiment and figure out, okay, what needs to be used on this spoiler, the paint, the black trim, the lens, this black trim, and just because this black trim or molded black plastic looks the same as this does not mean it's the same. These very likely could have been outsourced to different manufacturers, which then are assembled at the plant. The license plate frame, or I'm sorry, the license plate itself, never mind the frame. You can take the paint right off of these letters and numbers with certain chemicals or certain processes, so that itself is different. So this is like a paint, but this California, and this is obviously California, so your plates in your state are going to be different. But this paint I can remove. This I would have a very difficult time removing because it's a different part of the process. The license plate frame, it's plastic. So these are all the elements that you have to take into consideration, which makes it very difficult in quoting a price to a customer, because most customers are going to want to know before they sign on to you, hey, how much is it going to cost? Well, I don't know for sure. That's why I always give a spread in pricing. I start with a price and say, okay, based on the pictures you sent me, based on our conversation, it's going to start at 150 at a minimum, but it could graduate way past that very rapidly based on all the nuances. And most people grossly underestimate when it comes to overspray exactly how many places, how many materials you're going to have to be dealing with. And so that's why it becomes very problematic in trying to give a price. And that's what you have to explain to the customer. And if you're a person out there looking to do this yourself or hire someone to do it, hopefully this is adding some information to you that you realize that it is a subject or a task that is grossly oversimplified by most people. And you need to understand, as I explained to this customer, that when I talk to someone on the phone and I start asking questions, maybe they send me pictures, I get a description that the job kind of looks like this. But then when I get there and I start inspecting it and showing them exactly, it's like, hey, guess what? If the overspray is on the back, guess where else I can almost guarantee it's going to be also? Yes, on the sides, the wheels, the tires, the wheel wells. So suddenly a job that was like this suddenly explodes, and now it's like that. So that original price was here, and then suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, Darren, are you kidding me? It's like, well, so that's where I basically instruct people. It's like, okay, based on the price I gave you, what is your absolute guaranteed results that you need? You absolutely have to have it off the back end. But let's say the other areas, like inside the wheel wells, that's kind of trivial to him. So based on the cost that I assign to that moment, he may or may not have me do it. And that's where I educate the customer so he can make, or she can make, an informed decision. That's you as a professional detailer. That's what you've got to figure out, how to talk to your customer, how to educate them, because I'm a firm believer that an educated, informed customer is a better customer, and you will allows you to develop trust at every level so that that customer calls you back in the future. So let's pull in. I'm going to show you this rapid remover at work. I'm going to take a section at a time, spray it, spray it, spray it, spray it. Now once again, and I've got my microfiber cloth here, and I'm going to start just doing this kind of, and I'm rubbing this just ever so lightly. Really what I'm trying to do is just work in the rapid remover and allow it to start doing its job and allowing that dwell time and breaking down this whatever kind of overspray it is. Then I take my clean microfiber and I can start rubbing, and I know that this microfiber is soft, and I know that this plastic is pretty durable and it does not abrade easily, so I can actually be rather aggressive at this point now that I've allowed a certain amount of dwell time. And so right there we have essentially 99% perfection. I'm just going to have to detail inside of this. But part of using this chemical is that you don't allow it to dry, and it's not going to kill your world if it does, but you still, even though you've tested it, or I've tested it in this moment, there's still a potential for it to sit and dwell too long on a material and actually end up causing some damage to it. So not only do you have to test it at the beginning, you've got to be aware of it as it sits on the surface and make sure that it's not going to do some damage, possibly, if it's allowed to dwell for too long. So there's it taken off there. Then as far as in between these letters, I just take a little, I kind of wad up a little sliver, a little edge like this, and I will feed it in between the letters themselves and work that material. And now we have results. What I will do at the end is once I have everything removed, then I'm going to go back over it with like a spray wax, maybe my Meguiar's synthetic express wax, and clean this up, basically dress it up, detail it up, whatever you want to call it, so that any residue of the rapid remover has been removed and everything looks better than when I actually got here. And I don't mean just that the overspray is removed, but everything looks detailed out. So that's how I want to leave it, and that's how I will leave it. But I just wanted to show you, some of the basic steps that I'm using in this moment. We have completion. Now let me go in and I will address the problem areas. The major problem area, and once again, it really is all about the details. So for example, if I was to sit here and inspect this car from this angle, which is down this way, guess what? You're not going to see down here because you're up there. So everything that is underneath this lip, as in under here, under here, under here, is going to be obscured from an angle up here. You see that? You can't see underneath that lip. You can't see under there. You can't see inside there. So that's why when you do inspections, you have to get everywhere, including up underneath there. So that spoiler or that rear diffuser, whatever you want to call that piece, you have to get down and inspect, because up here you cannot see it. And you never know if your customer is going to or not going to see it. But once again, it's all about the details. So the problem area, as I said, even though this plastic looks exactly like this plastic, it may or may not, because there is a break right here. So they literally could outsource this one single strip to a manufacturer and outsource this strip to a different manufacturer that has a different formulation, whatever. And this is where the bean counters come in. They don't really care so long as they meet the basic minimum as to the manufacturing process, the fit and finish, the color, whatever. Same with this piece down here. I don't know, and the manufacturer's never going to tell you if in fact this was sourced from the same manufacturer or not. And this, as a detailer or car owner, is what gets complex, convoluted, whatever you want to call it. So what happened is, as I cleaned everything and then I waxed it, which now everything has been waxed, but I had to do one additional step, which is right inside here. The plastic behind, or that's tucked way back in there, responded differently than every other plastic. I have no idea why, but what it did is it dried it out. So even though everything else looked perfect and flawless, right inside there started to show up a little bit whitish. That was unacceptable. So what I had to do, let me see if I can get in there, but right back in there, I know it looks black, but there's a black vinyl trim piece in there. So what I did is my non-staining wax, like Meguiar's synthetic express wax, would not do the job. So I busted out my Black Wow. Now this is an unmarked label or bottle, but it's Black Wow. I know the actual owner, Richard Lynn. So my two favorite trim restoration products are Black Wow and Solution Finish. I know both owners. Black Wow is Richard Lynn. of showcardetailing.com in Anaheim. Then you have Chris West of Solution Finish, which is in Huntington Beach. They both make great products. And you may say, well, Darren, why don't you just pick one? Well, honestly, I actually am trying to get one of them to fail because they don't all perform identical on every single type of material. So black plastic, black trim is formulated and manufactured in endless ways, endless formulations. So honestly, I just toggle between the two products trying to figure out, can I get one to perform less or better? And it's just a case by case. So I carry both with me and I just make a judgment call in the moment. And honestly, I'm just waiting for one of them to like mess up so I can say, okay, well, I know I can't use this product in this situation or in this material, or this product has failed enough where I'm going to just ditch it. They're both good products. The point is now that I've had success in cleaning the overspray off, that's not the end of the equation here or the problem solving. Now that little tiny trim piece tucked right back in there represented yet another problem solving challenge, which if you're a detailer or soon or wanting to become a detailer, if you do not enjoy the problem solving process, I'm not sure if this is the world for you, because it is endless. And this is where YouTube videos come in. Is yes, you can learn a lot, but you will not learn everything. So hopefully you've learned a little something, whether you're a professional detailer, a want to become a detailer, or you're a do-it-yourselfer, or you just came here trying to figure out if there was a guy that does overspray removal, which I am. I'm in Orange County, California, versus the Orange County in Florida or wherever. So if you need some professional service, give me a call, but look underneath the video. There is links. If you are a detailer, I highly recommend the Rapid Remover. It is an incredibly versatile product, from tar removal to heavy grease removal. It just truly is amazing. And I wonder how I even managed in life before I found it years and years ago. Oh, and if you like what you see, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you think I suck, well, give me a thumbs down. I'm okay with that. You know why? Because every time you do one of those little actions, it gives me a little what's called SEO juice, which means that YouTube interprets that as being relevant. So give me a thumbs up right now, or give me a thumbs down, or even better, give me a comment. I do read as much of the comments as possible. I'm very busy. I've got a lot of projects in the works, some exciting stuff coming up. So stay tuned to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, well, what the hell are you waiting for? Okay, till next time.